Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Do I Love? Far Lone Sails is a game I've gushed about for a long time now. I've made multiple videos and I've live streamed it several times. But why do I love it? In the past I've used the phrase more than the sum of its parts to describe a number of games, but in my humble opinion, none exemplifies this sentiment more than this one does. One of the most notable elements of Far Lone Sails is the story. There's absolutely no dialogue in the game whatsoever, and not a word of text. There's no exposition dump and no cinematics. So then where does the story come from? The story comes from the world itself, entirely diegetically. As you travel, you can see that this place was once lush, verdant, even prosperous. However, not everything is as it was. Along the way, our character comes across quaint villages and open fields. He also comes across abandoned buildings, decaying landscapes, and a graveyard for destroyed technology. It's both beautiful and broken. It seems clear that this is a civilization that collapsed under the weight of its own success. Imagine our civilization if the Industrial Revolution never ended and nuclear power had never been invented. That is the world in which Lone is living. Few other games let the world tell the entirety of the story of that world better than this one does, and never before has moving a vehicle to the right felt so epic. The graphical style and composition is what really brings this game to life. The world feels lived in, as though there were actual people here. The locomotive has a little bedroom in it. You never need to use it as a game mechanic, but it's there to add atmosphere, and it does. There's small artistic details all over this game. Something as simple as this pram paints a picture of a happy, joyful world lost to the fires of industry. There's posters on the walls, and even in isolation, they tell their own part of a story. The attention to detail and the way it's all been lovingly crafted adds more to the game as a whole than I could possibly explain. Even the opening sets the tone for everything to come. You get to experience the world instead of just being lectured about it. The main game, in terms of mechanics, is one of micromanagement. You need to fill the furnace with fuel, you gotta push the button to go forward, put the sails up when the wind is favourable, and take them down when it's not. It all sounds so simple when phrased in that way, and in a lot of ways it is. There's more than enough to keep the player busy, while also allowing that same player to take in the world around them. The balance between the two is perfect. That's not the whole experience though. Several times during the journey, Lone has to deal with obstacles that require leaving the vehicle and resolving issues that would otherwise stop all possible progress. While these problems are simple enough that anyone who's played a game before could solve them, they perform a very specific function. In essence, these gameplay sections serve to break up the main bulk of the gameplay so that things don't get too samey, for lack of a better term, and they do it brilliantly without feeling out of place, disjointed, or needlessly complex. Far Lone Sails is a fairly short game. Our first run through would take somewhere between 3 and 4 hours, but it can be finished from beginning to end in about 90 minutes, give or take. I've heard people complain about this in the past, but I applaud it. The game doesn't feel short, it feels satisfying. It's not a game that feels stretched out or padded or conversely rushed. The developers had a vision and knew how to bring that vision to life in a remarkably efficient and effective way. A very difficult thing to do and an even harder thing to do well. All of these compelling elements are wonderfully supported by a truly amazing soundtrack. Each track is composed by a collection of talented musicians. It's immediately obvious that these musical pieces aren't made in an application from previously recorded samples. They're made from scratch by actual musicians playing actual instruments in a studio. You might have noticed that I'm a big fan of how the sound is used in this game, but I really can't impress just how well it works. Let me play a small sample without the visuals and without much context. It doesn't take all that much to picture what is happening here, and while it would be understandable if you didn't get exactly what was happening, I'd truly be shocked if you could honestly say that you had no idea. Let's try another one. Again, you might not accurately guess exactly what is happening, but the sense of danger and urgency oozes from this single element of the game's overall environment. This is a testament to just how much thought and care went into just the sound design alone. Everything complements everything else in this game. Although I don't have much to say about how this game functions on a technical level, I'd feel kind of remiss if I didn't at least mention it. I've got over 60 hours of playing this game behind me, and never once have I found a bug or a glitch. I'm not saying there are literally none. In fact, I'm positive that some speedrunner or other has found an exploitable quirk. I'm saying that I've not had to deal with one through the course of normal gameplay. Not once has an item mysteriously duplicated itself, nor has any object been inexplicably stuck when it's supposed to be movable, nor have I found myself catapulted across the world by wonky physics. Even when I've made some horrendous mistake, there's never been an instance which required me to reload from a previous checkpoint for doing so. As a quick aside, I'd like to mention the sequel for this game called Far Changing Tides. Honestly, everything I've said about this game also applies to that one. The reason that I prefer Lone Sails over Changing Tides is that the late game of Changing Tides is a little too busy for me. It's difficult to take in everything around you while also busying around making sure your ship is still sailing. It's more of a personal opinion than a problem with the game itself, and even then it's barely a problem. Far Lone Sails is a game that's more than the sum of its parts, and each part is beautifully crafted by a talented team of passionate artists and developers. Someone, somewhere, had a dream and took as much time and effort as humanly possible to bring that dream to others. And that's why I love Far Lone Sails.